Here we go again. It's the Lead Into Artcast, the show where a couple of visual storytellers get together, take a walk around a topic, think about it really hard, practice it really hard, and then think about it really hard, and then practice it some more. We think hard and practice hard so that you will too. My name is... Oh, I forgot that the stupid live video kicks on my other browser window right after we start. Sorry, Rob.
Hey, no problem, Jersey.
So I introduced you. You're Rob Stenzinger. What do you do?
Yeah. What do I do? Well, I'm a user experience designer, game designer, facilitator, visual storyteller. How about you, Jersey?
I'm a cartoonist and teaching artist, which is to say a person who makes comics, graphic novels, but then I also teach people how to do the same thing. This video, this is going to be one you're going to want to watch the video if you can, because we're going to be doing a lot of live drawing today. We're going to be sketching to think, and we're going to talk about what that is in detail in the second half of the show. But in the first half, we're just going to dive in and hit the ground running and like practice and do this thing. But also, this is going to be a unique one in that on the bottom of the screen, you're actually going to see all the little preview screens, right? We usually try to like get those to disappear during the show, but something funny's going on with Hangouts tonight, so it doesn't want to do it. So people saw you headbanging, Rob. Just FYI.
Nice. That's fine. This is part of life. The headbanging circle of life. It's fun to get amped up before the show, and I don't know. I just saw an impish smirk on your mob. I was like, you know what? It's time. Like, it's go time. I'm ready. So do it. Do what's natural. So, gosh, so right. I mean, we're going to hit the ground and take a look at this whole topic of sketching to think, right? And yeah,
drawing as a means of interacting with the paper to capture thought and process thought, sketching to think, which this is a term that you coined, Rob, and we're going to give a brief overview of what this is in just a moment. Like, why would you sketch to think, and what even does that exactly mean? But before we do that, Rob, we have to thank our sponsors for the show, and the sponsors happen to be us. You know, we're the people who make the show. So, you know, our work in other fields provides us with the resources to be able to do this show. And the first thing I would love to talk with you about, dear listener, dear viewer, is my webcomic Boulder and Fleet Adventures for Hire, and that's at boulderandfleet.com. It's basically it's about a bear and a bird who go on adventures together, but it's also my exploration of heroes and pacifism, and what does the hero who refuses to fight ultimately have to do. So it's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I absolutely love exploring through the characters and through the world. And the new story that's updating now, as a matter of fact, at the time of this recording, a new page is going to drop in like an hour. Well, more like an hour and a half. But the new story is called A Friendly Game, where our heroes go to a cake cafe and run into a bully, and the bully pushes Fleet's buttons, and when it looks like it's coming down to a fight, they are cornered into a situation where they have to solve their problems by playing a game. And when the winners and the losers are sorted out, do things get escalated? You'll find out by going to boulderandfleet.com. Rob, you make a game.
That's true. I have a couple of games, and the one that I want to mention right now is called This Panda Needs You. And what this panda needs you to do is to, well, play this. It's a calm block stacking game. It has a bit of challenge to it, and it also is a bit non-high pressure, because it's an all ages game. Initially, my wife Kate Stenzinger designed this game, the concept, and then you know, as we built it and got it into the world and started to see people play it and whatnot, it's, you know, the all ages thing became a lot more apparent, and it was sort of well, you've got this cute panda. This panda comes across a stack of blocks. The blocks get knocked over by some impish cloud who, you know, just can't stop doing that. But of course, you need to help the panda put things right. And, you know, in the process, I mean, there's physics and pattern matching, and some calm music and celebration. The panda loves it as you progress, and the music ramps up just a little bit, not too crazy. It's not like, you know, high pressure Baker day trader panda. It's, just a mellow panda. And you put things right and keep on playing. There's like 50 levels, and you can check out more about it at this-panda.com, and it's available for iPhone and iPad. And so, of course, you can just check it out in the iTunes App Store as well.
iOS. And then if you tune in every episode and you're like, hey, I'm really more about this, like the way you guys process thinking and unbox storytelling topics. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to sample the products that you make. Well, that's fine too. We make products that are more like this show, and that's at leanintoart.com/workshops. And there you can find my Comics Fundamentals series, which you download at a price of your choosing. It's set to 0 or whatever you think it deserves. That's a workshop series that I've been teaching in Ann Arbor for years and years. Gosh, I want to say like 8 years now. Series of 4 installments, 4 videos to walk you through the whole process of making comics. Then Rob also has workshops. Let's see, which one do we want to highlight this time? Want to talk about making video games from your creator-owned comics, Rob?
Yeah, sounds good. So let's say you've had an interest in making a video game, and you've been putting out content into the world in the form of comics, and you're wondering how do you cross that gap, and like how could you use the premise of your world and your characters and sort of some dynamics in there to make a series of interesting choices for players to engage with. This is about designing a game with your creative concepts at the heart of it. And honestly, that's a pretty huge competitive advantage, in my opinion, because there's so much difficulty and challenge ladders to climb if you're going to be the most, highest technical prowess or really complex, 3D game engines or something that requires high investment. But what can't be duplicated that you can do efficiently is look at the things that you make, which is your storytelling and your art.
And that's all at leanintoart.com/workshops. We make stuff of value, and we hope that you think it is of value and that you will support us by purchasing one of those things. And thanks to everybody who has. I also want to take this opportunity, Rob, to talk about a new audio project you're working on.
Oh, right. I imagine you're talking about Art and Science Punks.
Art and Science Punks.
That's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is an experiment. That's going on in the month of November. I think we're hoping to continue it. We're picking up a few followers and whatnot, and people, some downloads. And well, this is a podcast that I'm doing as a creative project with Kate. So here we go. A couple making a thing, and well, we're really into the idea of lifelong learning and how do you surround yourself and what kind of things you surround yourself with to continue that process for you individually, us as a couple, and also our family. And as we all are exploring how to just surround ourselves from stuff to learn from, and what kind of things are we trying week by week. And that's really the bent of it. And it's kind of a way to celebrate STEAM, right? Like science, technology, engineering and art, and a giant A in STEAM, right? So I don't just like having the A and being like, yeah, we added A to STEM. Making it a huge A. And so right, we talk about that kind of stuff, and it's been a lot of fun so far. And you can check it out. The URL is a little funky right now. It's like artandsciencepunks.fireside.fm.
Art Science Punks
On Twitter, yes.
Oh no, that's the URL too. I got the page right here. artsciencepunks.fireside.fm.
That's so funny. Okay. And then it's an experiment happening right before your eyes. So we're still setting up other things too. So of course we have artandsciencepunks.com, but
But if people follow Art Science Punks on Twitter, then they'll get the canonical email or web address eventually.
Yes, right on. And,
which we're on iTunes too, everybody.
We're thinking of this as like essentially our season 0. When we're making this during Art Sound Off. So it's like a challenge within the challenge.
And yeah, you guys are terrific together. It's a really cool project. I'm looking forward to following along as you guys experiment with it.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for bringing it up, and yeah, happy to share.
All right. So do you want to hit the ground.
Yeah, let's hit the ground.
All right, so let me find the appropriate bridge music. Oh, how about something intense? Because we're gonna dive in, start drawing in front of people, drawing publicly, drawing. We don't even know what we're gonna draw. We'll be prompting each other to draw.
Oh, exactly. There's a lots of an element of surprise. How, like, what will we choose to prompt one another with, and what will we do with these prompts?
Okay, so
And
I
then we'll
wonder.
look at why are we prompting each other later on.
Yeah, can we talk about that a little bit? Where does this idea come from?
Oh,
This
sure.
started as a project of yours, didn't it? Well, yours and a couple other folks.
Yeah, and so this is another experiment as far as putting things in the world to to try to see what resonates with other people, because the process of making marks and getting visual symbols out of your head as a way to either play with ideas or engage or build ideas. It's a very helpful practice that in my world I run into various designers that are at various levels of comfort with this. And I mean, I it's not surprising that or it might be surprising to people who listen to this, right? That a lot of folks can get very precious and concerned when it comes to like making a mark that other people are going to see. And so we're trying to make it safe and fun and useful to just doodle ideas, right? It's not dissimilar to things like ideas behind like SUNY Brown's like Doodle Revolution book, or Mike Rohde's sketchnote handbook, right? And
Right.
just saying like, I mean, if you can hold a pen or a Sharpie or anything, the marks you make, like, you're going to be able to approach the ideas in ways that are different than if you're only using words in a certain way. Because even if you're using words, you can use them more visually and do a lot of stuff with them that create new relationships and let others connect with it in different ways.
So this started out as the Sketch to Think blog, and you guys were sharing prompts and sketches with the Sketch to Think hashtag. So I wanted to pitch something at you, Rob. What do you think
Ah,
about, while this show is going live, anybody who's watching live, while we're doing this sketching to think, if anybody else wants to play along and they share it to Twitter with the Sketch to Think hashtag, I'm going to be watching Twitter so that we can share some of them on the air. What do you think?
I love it. And I want to yes and this and
Okay.
say, if you're hearing this after the fact, join
Ah,
in anyway. Join in anyway, because it's just like you're Netflix binging and you happen to be, watching this later, and your reactions are still awesome and are totally welcome. So yeah, play along
good idea.
no
Good
matter what.
idea.
But playing along now, you get the extra bonus of now, we're all going to be reacting to one another's stuff.
Right, right. And then, like, participants can actually be included in the show. I'm pulling up the search now on Twitter.
Oh yeah, good idea.
To think.
Um, and so think of this as far as, well, like, what kind of art? I mean, clearly we're not talking highly precious things. You're not, if you can make a really great, um, looks like you used math to make a cylinder or a cone, great. If that comes out of you naturally, don't hide it. That's fine. But don't worry about it either. If it looks more, lopsided and oval, it's a lot like like when you play games that involve doodling. So win, lose, or draw, Pictionary, that kind of thing.
Which, some people assume that, like, whenever I played it as a young person, because I was the class artist or one of the class artists, everybody would be like, I want Jersey on my team.
Mm.
Didn't mean I was necessarily that great at it, because it is like it was time boxed, and capturing ideas clearly is the name of the game, not necessarily drawing beautifully. So
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that was high pressure, wasn't it?
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like, I would get up to the pad and I would actually be a poor player. I didn't do it that well, because if it was something abstract or complicated, it would take me too long. I wouldn't get it done. So
Mm.
All right. So we should have enough time for each of us to do at least one. So who wants to go first? You wanna paper rock scissors for it, or do you wanna just pick?
Honestly, since you said paper rock scissors, let's do that. Let's try.
Okay.
All right. So
All right.
yeah, ready?
So wait. We
I got to
throw on
decide the
three,
shoot.
right? So it's one,
One,
two,
two,
throw, right?
one, two, throw. Okay, that sounds good. I'm not a normal 1, 2 throw, but yes, I will. We will do
Are
one,
you a
two,
one, two,
throw.
three throw?
I normally, but no, 1, 2 throw. I'm in. I'm in. Let's do this.
All right.
Ready?
All right. Man, I just learned something about you, Robin. I'm not sure I like it. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Ready? One, two,
2,
throw.
throw.
Sorry, tie. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
One,
1,
two,
2,
throw.
throw. Oh, look at you.
Paper covers rock. So
All
you go
right.
first.
All right. Fair enough.
All right. So I'm gonna pull up your canvas. And let's see, what am I gonna pick for your prompt? I prompt you, and then you'll have to sketch it out, and I'll do color commentary, or follow along with your commentary.
Okay.
How about efficient?
Efficient. Nice. Okay. Fun. I am ready, and we'll just take this where it goes, because this isn't a game show, and I don't necessarily get, I don't have to fall under it into a pit of pudding if I don't get this done in like a minute, right?
Oh, we can't do all family double dare on this. That's a bum out and a half.
That's a different budget level. Honestly, you get it. You know what? That's a reason for folks to participate in our Patreon. But anyway,
Actually, yeah, that'll be the call for it. We'll do a family double dare episode if we can actually raise, $10,000 on Patreon, or whatever a big pit of pudding would cost. So that giant nose to you have to stick your arm in.
Yeah, pudding's not cheap. So all
right. So you're gonna do
ready. So efficient. Okay. So I'm going to think out loud a little bit. I like to use little doodle characters, right? So this is my typical doodle character is this H ball, right? So it's made of a ball and a letter, the letter H, and then arms. It's a really quick and easy one to convey a humanoid shape. And then I'm going to think of I want to do efficient by way of comparison. So I'm going to say,
for those who are just listening in audio, he's drawn one of his little doodle people, sort of looking quizzical. One arm on the hip, the other arm scratching the face. There is a winding path in front of this character leading to the word goal.
Mountains are always good.
Yeah, so now this path, there's like some background elements that are coming in with the path. And so we've got some mountains.
So
mountains are a universal symbol for difficult or impediment, obstruction.
I just have to put a monster on the path. Okay. Then over here, I'm going to have efficient being someone that is going to ride a skateboard. And they are about to hit the ramp.
I see.
And get there.
Now, yes. So now we have somebody with a skateboard who set up a ramp to go directly to the goal, bypassing all of these obstacles.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's pick at this and unbox it or what have you.
Oh, do you want to unbox these in the 10,000 feet up section? Nope. How about that?
Based on that, yes, that's perfect. Let's just let it be, right?
Yeah, we'll keep these. We'll hang on to these sketches, and then we'll just like break them apart and process what we did in the next section. And reminder for those who might just be tuning in that if you want to play along with these prompts and do a quick sketch and share it to Twitter with the Sketch to Think hashtag, we're watching Twitter while this episode airs, so we can share some of your work too. All right, is it my turn, or do you want to go any further with this?
Well, I mean, I feel like this conveys the idea. Could I iterate on it? Yes, I could. Maybe I'll talk about that in the next segment.
All right.
Yeah. So Very well. I am interested in giving you a prompt, Jersey.
Right. Yeah. Do the steepling of the fingers. I'm ready.
Exactly. So, um, I would like to see. I would like to see you convey suspicious.
Vicious.
Yes. How might? How
Suspicious. Ooh, yeah. My initial see this is that Pictionary thing again. My initial thought is to like jump right to body language, right? What does suspicious body language look like? It's like, and I might even work out a couple ideas where it'd be something where it'd be like something where suspicion.
And just to double check, we do have your screen as the selected one on the because you're the technical director, right? Where you get
Yeah,
to
yeah. It should be up.
Yep.
Chat room, let us know if my screen is not up right now.
Yep.
But according to Hangouts, mine is the
Very good. Just double checking. So
okay.
ho, my word. Yeah, now I'm in here.
So like when I think of suspicious, I think of hurt somehow. You don't get to be suspicious because you've encountered a whole lot of trust in your life, right? So I think if somebody was really protected body language, but also like a combination of anger and pain, right? So like a little bit of, but suspicion can also be a dawning that you upon someone that you can't trust somebody. Like this is suspicion, and you're gonna be put. Gotta have somebody to bounce off of.
Okay, good. Yep. Second example.
So, no, this is our person interacting with our first suspicious person, like with like reaching out.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah, this looks innocent.
Come play with us. Not like in the Shining way, but like in a trusting way. Come on.
Nope.
And then
that's yeah.
Yeah. So, but then I also think suspicion as like realizing that you can't trust somebody for the first time. And that's like a combination of shock and like shock and betrayal. So actually I got these eyebrows all wrong. It'd be like slightly angry. And the universal sign for thinking hard.
Oh, exactly. Yep. Hand on the chin.
And I'm stroking the chin. But then suspicion also is juxtaposed often with a perfectly natural situation. Right? So two people talking peacefully.
The contrasting, this is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to wind up unboxing that a little bit in the 10,000 feet up section.
Totally. Yeah.
But I mean,
you guys are exchanging happiness. I don't know.
Yeah, like also like this kind of eye, not as suspicious. Whereas this kind of eye, in my mind, this isn't the way I register it. Suspicious. Right.
Sure.
People.
Yeah, you've gone more abstract.
So this is suspicion where I've been stung before and I refuse to let you. And it's suspicion bordering on bitterness. This is the dawning of suspicion, right?
Yeah, I mean, one's the, gosh, it could come from internal or external, but yeah, in each case, the what makes someone suspicious, and how direct and indirect is that experience? There you go. Nice. Yeah. Sketch to think. Right. So shall we do a second one?
Let's do two more. Okay. Wesley Smith is in the chat room, and says, just want to say you guys are awesome for doing what you're doing. I want to make comics myself, and you guys have helped every part of the way. Keep it up, and thank you. Well, thank you, Wesley, for stopping by to say that. That was very
That's
kind of
really
you.
cool. Thank you.
Um,
And yeah, this is that's a big. I think that's a great trait of the making comics community. There's a lot of support, a lot of great resources out there, and it's an honor to be considered one. So neat.
all right, you're at bat, buddy.
I am at bat. Okay,
Make a
I'm
new
ready.
page.
Yep.
Okay, I did what would generally be considered a positive one. You did a what would generally be considered a negative one. So now it's my turn to do negative.
Mm-hmm.
How about loneliness? What does loneliness look like, Rob?
Loneliness. Well, let's see. It reminds me of the Iron Maiden song "Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner" off of the album "Somewhere in Time," and that would be hard to convey because I think in this case, yeah, someone just running across the landscape just could be like, "Yay,
Yeah,
athleticism, nature." So I like the whole contrasty thing. So I'm gonna go. Hard to. It's easy to conflate loneliness with other stuff. So I'm just gonna let an idea come out. So let's see.
here comes one of Rob's doodle people again.
Yeah.
The person is looking over their shoulder, looking slightly either worried or quizzical, not sure yet, waiting for more context to pop up. Oh no. Doodle person is looking over at two other people having a good time.
Yeah. And then I think it'll get a little worse because
Even more people having a good time. Don't tell me that they're sharing an ice cream cone.
well, now they are.
Like, is there anything as happy and as intimate as sharing an ice cream cone?
That's hard. This is the kind of loneliness that now it's there's broken hearts happening. So all right. So then one more. And this is going to be let's see. And then let's see. Little terribly drawn.
Oh, and somebody with a pet.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And so, you see, spending just a few seconds on this. Just getting some basic gestures, and then gotta do a little more symbology here to help do the heavy lifting of my abstractness for the story.
Broken heart above the character.
Yeah. And then little feeling lines coming out of the heart too. All right. So then I like to do really rough doodles. And what's funny is even when I do like a sketch to think, is sometimes I do like a really, really fast underdrawing like this, where I'm like, this is the thing. And I'm like, now in the next version, puppy's going to be cute. You're going to hurt when you see how happy the puppy is, and etc. So, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's this is the idea.
can I riff and respond to yours, Rob?
Please do.
Because as I was watching yours, I was reminded of something that I was listening to on the Spark podcast recently, where they were talking about the concept of loneliness, and someone just defined loneliness as the desire, or rather, the feeling of not being seen. Right? It's not
Mm.
the absence of friends. It's not the absence of affection. It's the feeling of not being seen. And so as I was watching yours come together, I thought of that, and I thought of something like this, where what if we did? It's like in yours, there was like a sense of you were using proximity to show the distance of characters, right?
Yes.
And I thought, what if a character, a person, was at a very crowded party, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all had this experience where, and then we wouldn't even see the full faces of the people, just have that sense of people gleefully and comfortably talking with one another.
Mm. Yeah, I see. That's yep, having the character in the background. It was like, yeah, different layers going on.
Right. Like, so now we're like in
But
Wes Anderson
inherently,
movie territory, right? Uh,
but you've got, oh yeah, there's conversation all around.
there's conversation all around him, but nobody
Surrounded.
sees him. It's like it's the same kind of disconnection, but now it shows like that kind of alienation that happens when you're amongst all these comfortable, wonderful, happy people, right?
Yeah.
And what's lonelier than that? So there's like a different. I just thought it might be fun just to riff on, like, take your idea and like take it in a slightly different direction.
I like it. Yeah, this is really cool. Um, this is, yeah, I mean, it's very clearly lonely. That is awesome. And how we pretty much have just the with the one character is the only one that's actually the it's they're the emphasis in the whole composition. So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
you could like wander off and get too caught up in other characters.
There's a rule of thirds, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I not that I was thinking that through that clearly. I mean, I was really just riffing, just like sort of just all I imagined was somebody kind of feeling crushed by the weight of all these people around them and not being seen by any of them. The people are just so happy and comfortable in the world that they're existing in that they don't. There's no reason to pay any attention to this poor guy or gal. All right,
Mm-hmm.
all right.
Good stuff.
You want to do one more? I think I can do
Yeah,
one more.
I think so. This is sounds really good. And I'm picking. I guess I will go the positive slash neutral. Let's go with hmm, I guess let's go with investigating.
Investigating. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Pull up my canvas. Investigating. Investigating. So I imagine when, okay, so again, I'm going to think about different contrasts and different ways people look or feel when they are investigating something, different approaches, different styles. So, like, one of the first things I thought of was some kind of dry erase slash chalkboard,
Mm-hmm.
and then somebody, again, the universal symbol of thinking hard, but one of these, right, where it's like,
Yeah, that's a handy gesture. It's like hand on the chin. Gotta look deep into this.
right, and look at all these nonsense scribbles, which just happen to look like question marks, right? Yes, magazines hire me to do your spot illustrations for for articles.
This is yeah, it's letters column. This is yeah, Jersey's got your letters column. Consultation,
Okay, but
special products here.
investigating is also, you know, prodding and peering, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think of looking under things, like, one second, come on, there we go. I'm hitting
Mm-hmm.
my interface instead of hitting my canvas. There we go. Like I think of like make my brush bigger.
Mm. Is this going to be like Cask of Amontillado kind of thing?
What?
I don't know. Isn't that the book where it's the heartbeat in the walls?
Oh,
That's
I don't know. I was
where's
just
that
thinking
from?
like I'm like thinking like looking in a crevasse of some sort, right? So like
Aha. Okay. Nice.
so if I think of let me get a smaller
Yeah.
line.
Oh, yeah. Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, that's a telltale heart, right? The old man's
That's
heart's buried. The old man is buried in the floorboards, and he hears his
it's
heart beating.
it's very similar. So um it's a
That was just like a motif that Poe liked.
I would say, yeah, it's just a motif that Poe.
Like, oh, I heard something. What is it? Let's look.
Okay, so I guess the motif is being buried alive, as in the black cat and as in the telltale heart. So,
Oh, I
yeah.
said this is people just looking under a bed, right?
All right, fair enough.
Then
That's
investigating is also
that could be any. Yeah, that doesn't have to be so dark.
and investigating is also poring over resources, right?
Oh, look at that. That is some hard studying. I see gears. Holy moly. Look at that person hunched up on a book. You don't hunch up on a book unless you're thinking pretty darn hard. That's really good.
You know, find the answer.
Oh my word. Plus the is that okay? Is that a collar or a beard on the background character?
Oh, collar.
Okay, cool. Because either way, it works, right? I mean, the beard is the whole
But then,
wizard
of course, I
says
mean,
work
there's like
harder.
more comical version, right? So you can have comical. Comical is a relative term,
Mm-hmm.
but then you've got right. This would be more of your 1950s clip art version,
Oh, sure.
investigating. Whoops, I just turned the page. So there, I think I filled the
Nice.
canvas up a little bit.
Yeah. Holy
Couple
moly.
different
That's
takes.
a yeah. Three different takes with multiple layers. That's really okay. You've investigating quite thoroughly.
Do you want to take a
So
stab at it?
okay, sure.
Rip
Sounds
and
good.
respond.
Why not? That is interesting. That's really good to hit a different angle on it. Ah, now I wish we would have done that for the first one. So investigating. Let's see. The all right. Are we on my screen?
Yep, we're looking at your screen right now.
So I'm getting characters in different, postures clearly pointing toward different directions. Um, and I was thinking what they are doing is that they're in a room that is essentially I know there's a nickname for this kind of room, but when it's got the whole the images and the yarn uh the thumbtacks and whatnot, where you're sort of
Yeah, yeah. Where yeah, you have like the crime map, right? Here's
yeah,
all the different pieces
that
of
might be
evidence that are connected to one another, and it's usually overlaid of a map of the city.
yep. And I mean, and either way, I mean, there's these relationships, and the relationships are the yarn, and that sort of brings you to the different collected resources. And then I'm just going to say I don't know what it is, but it's probably a laptop for some reason. Right here.
A resource that connects one to information.
Yeah.
right? Like that my dude hunched over a book, I imagine was in some kind of a library.
Ah, there you go. So I guess I have one character with their back to everything, and the other is, finding the easy. Maybe it's kind of funny. Maybe it's like, go Google it. Why don't you? Right? Versus the whole like you and your crime map. Like enough with the yarn. There's
Mm,
a computer right
interesting.
here.
So your take is more of like an either you're providing like two different approaches to the same idea.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
wondering.
that's what's coming out here,
Yeah.
and that's just sort of so yeah, investigating. I'll try to do another one. Let's see. What do I think of investigating? Because I do like the whole classic inspector kind of things. Um, but what if we took it? I like how you took it out of the world of um, sort of, you know, it doesn't have to be a dark topic in any of yours, right? I mean, even the one that person on that's doing the magnifying glass hunch could be a totally uh, looking for bugs, right? I mean, just literally into insects. So,
Right, right.
let's see. But another investigation. Okay, I got another one.
And oh, I'm seeing a person looking through some kind of apparatus, like perhaps a microscope.
Exactly. And they I don't know. I suppose like a little. I like a little bit of a exaggerated pose of like I'm really stumped or like Eureka. Either way, something something obvious.
So I thought of
Um,
one more based on something you were saying as I
okay.
was listening to you sort of think aloud about this. And I thought of, the kids going into the woods,
Mm.
right? Stranger Things, that whole thing.
Hmm.
It's like, you got one kid that's already deep in, right? And then we've got the one kid looking at us going like, let's go. So we're the reluctant one going, come on, guys. I want to go home. No, we should go see if there's a monster in there. Maybe there. Oh, can I draw over top of this?
That's right. I paid $100 for my bike. I'm not leaving it in a ditch.
Right.
Yep.
So there's
Glowing
another,
eyes.
of course.
Yep.
There always is. There always is. Actually, it
Mm-hmm.
would be better if I did it like something like that. But yeah, you get the idea. Quick
Mm-hmm.
sketch. So,
I like it.
all right. So there's taking fairly abstract ideas and visualizing them somehow, um, very quickly. Um, so how about are you ready to go on the ground in a second, Rob? Or I mean, 10,000 feet up?
Yeah. Yes, we did. We switched up our format.
I was just at the grocery store today, and I took out my card to pay for the thing, and they're like, "Oh," and I swipe it, and they're like, "You got to put it in the chip reader." I'm like, "How long have those chips been out now?" And I'm still doing that darn swipe. What's wrong with me? Um, okay, so in about a minute, yeah,
Well, okay, we learn effective patterns to solve problems, and that's a really important skill to have. And the chip readers are a mixed bag. So I don't know. That could be natural reluctance to be like, I don't want it to make the weird burp, burp, burp sound at me. That doesn't sound like a positive reinforcement, right? Did something
no,
go
it does not.
wrong? Is
No.
Pac-Man here? Why is this happening? So
Well,
anyway.
thank you for letting me off the hook. So, okay, in 1 minute and 30 seconds, we are going to answer the questions. We're going to explore, we're going to unbox what we did. What were we thinking about when we were sketching? How did our thinking about the prompt change when we saw somebody else draw it, right? So, like, we were reacting to one another and, thinking about different ways that we would do it.
Mhm.
Um, and then finally, at the end of the episode, we're going to like kind of try to wrap our brains around like, well, how does incorporating this kind of practice help our overall practice? But before we do any of that, we've got to thank our other sponsors. Yes, another way that we support this show is through a service called Patreon, patreon.com/leanintoart. And Patreon is just like Kickstarter, but it's for ongoing projects. So it's, you you contribute $1 a month, as little as $1 a month. And then, if enough people do that, it helps make the show sustainable. And I want to thank 5 supporters who have been backing us on Patreon. 5 special people who are kind enough to believe in us and the work that we do. Let me see if I can scroll to actually find my list here. Okay, so Bill Gathen at Epic Poodle on Twitter. Thank you, Bill, for supporting the show. India, new supporter. Old Swifty. Do follow her at Old Swifty on Twitter. Been posting really, really cool drawings lately. Becky Hilburn, friend of the show, been on the show before. Natto Soup. Becca has been participating in the Art Sound Off Challenge with some really awesome video blogs. And then Rachel Ross, NYC Terrace, NYCTERIS. And Rachel has been, supporting us for a long time and has always been delightful in interacting with on Twitter. Thank you, Rachel, for supporting the show. And then finally, Merjam. Merjam, I did not find your Twitter account. I didn't find any accounts to associate you with, but we do thank you very much for supporting us and helping make the show more sustainable. And we do encourage everybody to go to patreon.com/leanintoart, where you can, check out our extra lean episodes and also our Circle of Trust post for people who support the show.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, Rob, you ready to go 10,000 feet up?
Yeah.
All right, so which one? What music to go
this thing we just did.
I'll pull out some music from Greg Schiegel's appearance on the show. Very uplifting. We're going up. We're going 10,000 feet up from the British Bake Off.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm like, I have no idea what that's from. Yep.
It's one of Greg Schiegel's favorite shows, so when he came on, I got bridge music that was specifically tailored to him.
And I remember him reacting to that in a very positive way. And yep. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. British Bake Off. I like baked things and I like British people, so that's awesome.
I've watched the show. It's absolutely lovely. I highly recommend it if you like food and if you like watching people make food.
I do.
It's super fun.
I actually do. I need to make time for that.
This is adorable old British lady who, like, you get to listen to her taste things and then talk about what it tastes like. It's really nice.
Does she put things down in a very like clear yet gentle way?
Yeah. Like, oh, it's too bad about this, that kind of thing. It's never like, oh God, get it out of my mouth. It's always
this is bad and you're bad and you should feel bad.
No, it's very gentle and very classy, but it also is unambiguous.
Okay. Wow. All right.
So let's talk about what we did. Let's react to some things. Before we go there, actually, can we talk a little bit more about Sketch to Think as a project
yes.
as a whole? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Awesome. Sounds really good. So this started with just a few different designers that I've worked with in the past, Nicole Metland and oh my God.
Joel Bodkin.
Thank you. So yeah, Nicole and Joel, we taught a workshop on this just because we know we're passionate about it, and both. So Joel is a very accomplished artist, and has gone through being a very serious studier of highly detailed rendering. Then getting into cartooning and stuff later on, and is just really into like visual facilitation and all this kind of stuff, and is an industrial designer. And Nicole is like a fellow UX designer, and she's worked with both of us at different points on different projects. And she was like, you know what, it'd be neat to like share like some things that the quirky folks that she's worked with. And she's no slouch herself as far as conveying ideas visually. And so it was neat to do a workshop from those different perspectives. And we did an event called Drink Draw Design. And we were like, hey, there's something here. And so like over time, we've been just exploring, like, what might this become? How could we turn this into something else? So eventually this idea came out of, well, what if we just sort of practiced in public and did a sort of sketch to think thing? And that, I mean, the name came later, but it was like, well, let's try to figure out something. And so the idea with this is to sketch to think, much like any creative challenge you've encountered, very much like things that we've done, Jersey, with the Lean into Art quests, except it's truly mini quest. That
Those who've been with the show for a long time remember some of those quests could be quite intense.
Yeah, they were just wide open invitations to adventure, and
Yeah.
then try to be quick, everybody. It was a lot of fun, and I think the quests represent a different angle on a creative challenge that we instead we wanted to do something really tiny. And so, right, this is to celebrate and practice and invite others to come along. And the rough idea is, well, one of us would post a prompt on the Sketch to Think blog and share that out to the social medias, and then, well, see who wants to participate along and reply to it. We've experimented with having a deadline. We've experimented with no deadline, and I imagine every kind of, who knows, all sorts of things will come, and it's just going to be an ongoing process of trying stuff. But the rough idea, make stuff, see what people respond with, or prompt people to think about a thing as far as like the content of like, well, what is a Sketch to Think post? It's a lot like what Jersey and I just did. I mean, it's saying, well, we want to have a concept that we want to think through, or a particular thing to practice, and let's make a prompt out of that desire to practice, and then respond to it. So there you go. Much like investigating and running into the woods, or much like investigating and looking under the bench, the loneliness, all that stuff. And in our case, yeah, we're just getting underway.
So, I was going to ask why even do this, but I think that we can probably come to our own conclusions when we unbox what we went through when we did this, right?
One of the reasons why I'm doing it is, again, the whole, this is a very approachable thing. Even if you don't have the cartooning skill of a Jersey Drost, you can get your ideas on a page, and it's okay that they look, wonky or have roughness to it. Like, that roughness has other qualities to it that are desirable, because it can be approachable, and others may feel interested to come in and try to evolve it, as opposed to saying, well, I guess you figured out the answer because, wow, that looks really good, and it's about being a conversation and communication tool. So there's a lot to it. So this kind of project can be is hopefully attractive to folks who need to do some kind of visual facilitation, or some kind of if it gets a little more doodling into more people's PowerPoints, I think that's a win too, right? So maybe they're not facilitating, but they just gotta convey a brief, like, what's the value of this thing, and they do it in a doodle. That's a win, instead of a clip art.
And I would imagine too that, I mean, it helps you process your own thinking by using a different modality, right? A different like thinking modality. You're not thinking about verbalizing it. You're thinking about, like, the thing I say with my older students, especially adult students who like are really having a hard time understanding this concept of like capturing a feeling in a drawing. And I say, like, when you're talking to a friend and you get frustrated and you're like, it was just like, he just made me feel, I'm like, that's comics, right? Because that is a nonverbal visual representation of the emotion that we all know what it means. But heck, if we can figure out what words to use to describe that feeling, right?
It brings it out of really explicit language into more of it's a different set of qualities to try to communicate about.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way of putting it. Okay, well, we're gonna talk about what we went through.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you for bringing up the whole point of the, like, you as you're thinking. Like, I sketch when I'm coding also. Like, if
Mm.
I'm like, sketching to code is a huge thing. Like, this is a comment. It's not just sketching to communicate to other people. Sketching to, yeah, approach an idea for yourself and find other angles into it, because of uh, you're willing to just not be as concrete about it. That's a very valuable thing to for fresh perspective.
And speaking for myself, I mean, I only make comics, folks, but uh, when I'm scripting, I oscillate back and forth. Like this is an outline for a Boulder and Fleet story, right? And I switch back and forth between
Mm,
writing it out and showing the actual moments when it's like, it'd be more effective as I just sketch out the scene like for myself, right? Rather than so like yes, here's the scene in the comic that's updating now where Maggie looks very threatening to two of our characters, and I knew what I wanted that moment to look like. I had it pictured in my head, and I could have described it. Maggie looks very large and menacing, and lightning strikes behind, right? Or I could just doodle it out real quick.
that it's a complete, it's a different way to engage with information, both when you're conveying it and when you're consuming it. So why not um, try to foster um, more willingness and awareness of that is a useful thing.
Oh,
So there you go. That's a lot of the why.
all right, let's talk about what you went through when I threw that
Mm,
prompt at you. So I think you went first, yes?
yeah, I
Pull up
think
your
so.
let's pull up your first drawing.
Okay, paging back. I think it what was it efficient.
Yes.
Okay. Um so what went through my mind for the first drawing was thinking of how there are and I'm arguing against myself as I'm trying to describe it, just hence my pauses. So it you can convey efficiency as a path of a distance between 2 points, and also maybe complexities along the way. So distance and difficulty, and what does that look like? And one really handy, quick, easy to doodle metaphor of um, a progression over time is a path. Like, make a line and or make mountains, and then make a line through the mountains, right? And that's kind of a go-to symbol for me.
Mm.
And um, so I was thinking, like, well, I could have a path that involves a difficult journey, and then a path that is, definitely way less difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was like, okay, here you go. There's the one person. And then and then of course conveying the person taking the more difficult path may have a little bit of a tentative approach versus the more direct approach. Um,
I see. As
is more bold.
right, the second person has like a very direct pose as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then this is literally the quality of something that I would doodle on a whiteboard in the middle of a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, okay, this is going to be in a comic or whatever. It's like, this is a person, that's a person. There's a monster on the road. Maybe this is a tree, right? Um, but um, it's not that concrete. It's a few fairly abstract symbols that overall convey a message.
Would you take this and do anything else with it afterwards? Or is this, in your opinion, this is baked?
What's that? So there are two different things. So if I thought that this content were not fully in harmony with my message, I would revise it. And then that's one dimension. Then there's also the execution. The execution, I would just probably do a light blue line, print it out, and then do a quick Sharpie over it, and then make that my more refined. It's not like I'm going to put a lot of effort into that next thing, or a lot of nuance and detail, but like, yeah, it's going to be less rough and even easier to understand, because there will be not some scribbly lines overlapping one
Right.
another and all that. So it'll be even more symbolic and
So
straightforward.
so revision depends largely on whether or not you feel or the audience feels the meaning is clear.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Not
so
not,
it depends on where I need to put it too. It's like, oh, this is going to be a slide in some deck where I'm telling a story or making a pitch. Then, yep, I'll do that extra step.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So when I threw the prompt at you, I had no idea how I would define or visually define efficiency or efficient. Um, but when I first saw your character, I remember feeling a little surprised that you defined it as a path, right? Um, and then quickly saw that there's because you did this with a couple different sketches, this either or kind of thing. It's here's A, or rather I should say A B. Here's A B. B is what we're trying. B is the idea, but we need A in order to reflect the difference between B and A. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Um, and this stood out in my mind because when I first started my first sketch, which was suspicious, my first impulse, and this is the part when I said, "Oh, here we're in Pictionary town again," because my first impulse was to try to represent it abstractly. Like,
Mhm.
what does suspicious shapes look like?
Mhm.
Right? What does suspicious shape be compared? And then I realized, well, I'm going to spend way too much time thinking about this, you know, when really
Mhm.
the idea is to do this quickly and not spend a lot. So let's go to my wheelhouse, which is people and body language. And so then I started with this guy, and then I realized, but when I started the body language, he's got to be suspicious of something or someone. And I saw what you did and realized, yeah, that is a very clear way to define it. But what I wanted to do, the artist in me wanted to do that so bad. It was like, let's find a really suspicious shape so that when I draw it abstractly, everybody will say, ah, that is suspicion.
you
Um,
you hit the essence of
yeah,
suspicion. Yes.
yeah. So like there was like a little bit of an artiste thing going on in my brain, like a little bit of like friction. Um,
I don't There's not a darn thing wrong with that, of course, right? Because I mean, everyone's going to have a different angle on this depending on your resources and comfort and experience. So, I mean, for you, you're drawing upon a um let's see, a wide array of practices and effort over time to have a like a like your vocabulary you were bringing into conveying these things had a lot more human gesture, like you were doing gestural, full on gestural drawing, right?
right.
And that's um that was really clear also because of that. I mean, it had this extra layer of uh easily identifiable human form,
Mhm.
and in a vocabulary of human posture that conveyed that added a lot to conveying the concept. Whereas where my approach was definitely like leaning on the symbolic and then the contrast among symbols, where having just sort of someone on a skateboard going to and then hitting a goal, maybe that hits the point, but like adding someone else who is going through a lot more than jumping a thing to get to a
Mhm.
goal, it makes the point more clear, and it lets you, yes, it's expending more as far as like things participating in the message, but yet those things are really, really simple shapes and symbols overall, where you were conveying the message with less symbols.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just interesting to me. I did not do any practicing of this before we did the episode. I really wanted my experience to be fresh,
Mm-hmm.
and it was interesting to me that the initial friction I hit was um, there was a prideful part of me that wanted to do something clever. And then when I said, no, you do not have time to be clever, just do what you know, right? Do what you know how to do, okay, and get the idea on paper. Um, it just brought to mind two things. One is it showed that yes, I am ever ambitious about my work, which is a good thing. But and I'm not just doing this as like a reflection of myself. I'm doing this as a modeling exercise to say like, okay, here's things I looked out for. Like what signals was I getting from my own internal dialogue when I encountered this. Um, it was an ambitious moment followed by an acquiescence to the parameters of the project, followed by a trust in my own abilities. Right? Do what you can
Hmm.
do, right?
Yeah, that is a really interesting progression. I mean, the you're it's a desire to perform well can totally come out of a desire to serve and be recognized as a high quality source of service, and and also, I mean, get a point of pride of like, this does represent a lot of practice um and distinction of like, well, when I'm conveying loneliness, you're going to connect with this in a
Yeah,
way
let's
that
go to your lonely drawing real quick.
okay.
I want to talk about that real quick, 'cause that was interesting to me too. Is that like I saw what you were doing and I totally got it, and I said yes, and yep, let's
Hmm.
take this idea. And this is, I think, another interesting aspect of doing this as a project where you share it with other people, where you gather around some kind of either a tag or a blog, someplace where everybody can share each other's work easily with one another. Because when I saw this, I saw, yes, it's a person who's feeling excluded from a lot of moments that are about intimacy, affection, and common purpose, right? We're playing a game together. We're sharing ice cream. I'm
Hmm.
playing with my dog. This is all about like people sharing a connected common experience. And this person does not have that connection to the scene, which is perfectly clear, right? And then you again went to symbols with your heart, right? Um, but when I saw that, I was like, yeah, and let's see how we can take it even further. Where like let's remove the proximity. Let's put them right in the middle and still make them feel alone, right? So sharing can
ah
also be a way to sort of have a dialogue with other people to generate some new ideas of your own, right?
oh my gosh, it really is, because ideas come from some kind of movement and stimulus. And you have, if you have like a group of people practicing with you at the same time, that that has the opportunity of, well, if you're reacting to one another, then you could be providing additional information to one another to improve your work, evolve your work, see it from a different angle. Anything that at the worst would just only add more depth and insight to what you did make.
And then the other interesting thing I noticed is that by the time I got to the third one, I was ready to like generate lots of ideas, even ideas that I wasn't all that crazy about, right?
Hmm.
So, but it was like, all right, now let's just blast out as many as we can. Not well, this wasn't a situation where it's like, oh, my arm is warmed up. It was more like now my brain is warmed up, right? Now I'm ready to like just pitch and not be
And,
concerned about the outcome.
and isn't that interesting that like, even in those of us who are really comfortable, performing and practicing and getting stuff out there and sharing, that there's something about bumping up against the parameters of, well, what is this for, and why is it helpful or whatever. And until you're out there experiencing it, then um somehow you may have like, what you're assuming may be incomplete and likely is. And so now you're going to have a richer model of like, oh, I get what this is about. And I have even greater insight, and I know how to act. And which is a lot of it's like a new capability, or new context at the very least, where you're like, oh, I get it. I know how to play this now.
Yeah. Well, do you want to move on to final thoughts on this in a second, or Rob? Are you ready to?
Yeah,
Any other
I
thing?
think
Did we
so.
miss anything?
Did we miss anything? Let's see.
Did you have any follow-up questions based on what we unboxed?
Hmm. Let's see. I think. we tackle this from different angles, and so for me, like I brought in like just visual facilitation for the purpose of getting ideas out and having, participation in a room to have a shared purpose and examine a thing. That's where I was coming from. And um, I can tell that you were coming from a different angle. And I think you summarized that pretty well. But like, what do you think like this practice is very useful for someone who you would feel is like, oh yeah, that's, this is a storyboarder practice, a
Yeah,
comic
yeah.
artist practice.
It'd be a storyboarding warm up. It would be even be a comics writing warm up. I kind of
Hmm.
wanted to save some of this for final thoughts in terms of like
Okay.
how I think it directly would benefit my work, my professional comics work or even my personal comics work. Um,
That's totally
because
cool. Maybe
because I
that's worth
think
pitching up.
it's also it's a microcosm of what I go through with bigger projects where you come in, everything's ambiguous, right? Oh, I got a new book. I'm doing a new book. I'm going to start a new story. I ran into this with the Boulder and Fleet story that's updating now. It's a 24-page story, right? It's not huge. But before I committed to that parameter, it was this big, ambiguous, nebulous thing full of 1,000 potential directions it could go. And it made it very difficult to make that first initial step. And the moment I said, up, 24 pages, that's all you got. Okay, well, now I've got something to bang against the edges of. And then there's that initial panic of, I don't get to do everything I want to do with this thing, you know? Uh, crap, I'm not going to get to be as clever as I want to be. And then there was this moment of, oh, well, you don't get to be as clever as you want it to be. You could at least ship something that is of, use or is a serviceable thing, right?
Mm.
That's exactly the little arc that I went through with this as sort of a warm up exercise to get me to that shippable place a little bit more efficient or with less time and less muss. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's my angle on it. But also, I mean, as an instructor, as a teacher, this is stuff I do with my students all the darn time, right? So like I'll be looking at students' work and I'll be saying like, okay, that's an interesting moment you got on the page. What would happen if we saw it from this character's point of view? And then maybe they would have a little trouble visualizing that. Like, well, what do you mean? And then I'll run up to the dry erase board and I'll work out like, here's 6 different ways you could do that same moment. Let's evaluate how it feels different with each one of those, right?
Mm. Well, I
So
see. Yeah. Okay. A lot of potential use then. That's that's definitely a question I have in mind where um in this experiment of sharing this kind of project, um who is out there that would find this handy thing, you know um just because one particular guitar technique I think is pretty neato, it doesn't mean other people will think either that technique nor guitar is neato. So uh there you go.
so this is also a call to the leaners to say like who, like I guess they could let you know by doing some of their versions of the sketches based on the prompts that we used in this episode and using the sketch to think hashtag.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I think
Right.
we got a lot of material for the final thoughts section, and I'd like to get to that.
Hmm.
Um, Good. So before we do that, so in about 60 seconds, we're going to answer the question, how might this sketching to think thing, this little exercise, this little practice, how might that help us overcome creative blocks? How might this help us pursue ongoing work? Um, we're going to explore lots of ideas, a lot of the benefits that we haven't even talked about yet. But before we go there, we talked about a lot of different ways that you can support the show financially. You can support us by, buying our products or, subscribing to our other ongoing things like our comics and things, or supporting us on Patreon. But here's a free thing you can do. Here's something that doesn't cost any money, just costs a few minutes of your time. If you enjoy the show, if you think that this material has value, you can, if you're watching it on YouTube, giving the video a thumbs up helps more people find the show, helps make it more relevant in what is arguably the second most important search engine on the planet. Well, at least in Western half of the world. Um, Or you can go to iTunes if you're listening to the audio version, going to iTunes and giving the show a star review, however many stars you think it deserves. You don't have to write a whole review, but that we appreciate it if you do. But that helps more people who are looking through what is one of the biggest archives of podcasting material in the world. Find us, helps make us more relevant. Looks like we got a couple more star reviews since the last episode, Rob. Isn't that great?
That's so awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for doing that.
And thanks to everybody who's been giving us really nice reviews
yeah.
too, like writing out reviews. That's super, super helpful. That helps more people decide to hit that subscribe button.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It does.
Final thoughts.
It's legit. Like seriously, that does help a lot. Like think about like when you go to buy a product, when you see that someone who seems to click with your perspective, who endorses it and says this is 5 stars or what have you, right? 4 stars, 5, whatever. That you feel more comfortable, and that is a sort of a trust signal that genuinely helps.
It helps a ton. It helps a ton. Think about any time you've ever bought an expensive art tool online. You read the reviews, you watch reviews, you listen to reviews, right?
Oh yeah.
I've got the Vio Z canvas that I've been doing all my art on, and you can bet I read as much as I could from the perspective of artists to find out whether or not it was something I wanted to spend money on. So yes, same idea. Okay. Mm-hmm. Final thoughts. How might this practice help us with ongoing work? I know for a fact that something I fail to remember every time I start a project, and then I relearn it every time, is that the only cure for the terror of the blank page is to start throwing lines down, any lines at all. And like 100 writers have said this, it's like you just start typing or writing or drawing anything. And it's like having a dialogue with the paper. It's like saying like, okay, paper, what do you want from me? Not this? Okay. Well, not that? Okay. Let's keep going. Let's find out what we find out. But engaging in a spirit of agendaless play, right? Where this isn't about me showing you how brilliant I am. This isn't about me, throwing down the most original, brilliant thing in the entire world, right? Like that one example that I did with like the Sherlock Holmes guy, right? That wasn't, I'll pull that back up. That wasn't a stroke of genius, but it's throwing ideas on the page in order to begin a dialogue with it. That has become like a very, very important thing to me to try to remember every time I start something. Otherwise I freeze in the headlights.
Yeah. And the headlights are essentially your own extreme expectations of what you need to see you do next. Yeah. And yeah, I say that as very much yeah, I have felt that too. And it doesn't matter the creative discipline if you aren't able to sort of have a progression or a motion and the ability to see that happening and react to it. It's easy to be stuck, and it's easy to sort of sit there and like with your pen to chin or pen to lower lip and think and think and think and think.
If I just think hard enough, Rob.
Yeah, exactly.
They do that in they do this in so many movies, and it always bums me out now when I see it. Is when they should have some guru going like, just concentrate, focus, concentrate. What does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything. I don't even know what that means. It's like, but when I let go and relax and start doodling something, it's almost like it guides my brain into that creative track, right? And then suddenly I can be creative again. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bit of lossy compression going on in someone chanting "concentrate" in a whisper, because what you said is the full thought of notice what you're doing. Don't just stand there. Keep putting ideas out of your head into a medium, and it's okay to keep reacting to him. And then if you have a feedback loop of between the things you get out and then things you do next, because now you're making stuff, and that is let's see, that is likely from a variety of sources a path to getting more stuff into the world than not.
I'm
So
also
that has a huge benefit.
I also think there's a physical benefit. You know, it's like when I'm thinking about, and again, this is I'm thinking about direct benefits to my career as a cartoonist.
Mm.
When I start the day first thing, you know, and I have my coffee and I, you know, read the news a little bit, and then I sit down to draw. Maybe I'll do some stretches, right? You know, you do these, um,
Oh, sure. Yep.
but it's like I'm not necessarily limbered up and ready to throw down like really awesome curves on the page.
Do you do
So
this one too, where you pull your do you pull your hand toward you? Your so grab your fingers
okay,
from one hand to the neck. Fingers. Also, like, so you have your fingers.
uh-huh,
Use your other hand with
uh-huh,
your okay. Grab that.
uh-huh,
Grab your fingers.
uh-huh.
Now roll gently your fingers toward the your forearm, right?
Okay,
And so it's stretching like this, but it's sort of down and toward. Do you
yeah,
feel it? Do you feel a stretch along the back of your arm?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, I haven't done that one.
Yeah, that's kind of the opposite side of the one you just did. So
Yeah,
that's why I noticed. So that because the opposite one I've seen lots of folks do.
yeah.
But then anyway,
But
that's
it doesn't necessarily prepare me for starting to throw down really like, you know, awesome graceful curves and contours. So
mm,
there's a physical warm up aspect to doing something like this as well, right? Low cost way to like get your arm into shape.
and I think you're there along with your physical self as you're getting that practice. Um, I think it's there. There's sort of you're ready to go with if you're in front of people doing this. It's I've found this very helpful to um essentially demonstrate that um one of the reasons why I choose to draw some things really simply is to just say this is not precious. Anyone can participate. And it sends that kind of signal. So that's where I'm really sticking to the sort of H ball character. Um, I'm not trying to say that that's the minimum threshold to cross to participate in drawing, but you know it's really open ended and approachable. So and there's a having a frequent um, so the creative process, depending on how you define it, if you're like, I'm going to put a book out into the world, that is a probably a medium to long term project. Whereas if you say, I'm going to, ship a mini comic, or I'm going to ship a page, or I'm going to just do an illustration, each of these has other dimensions to it, depending on how you choose to go about it. And to have that complete cycle of, I have an idea, I've engaged with this idea, and now I know how I want to execute. Then I execute, then I shared it. That's kind of a rough sketch of what I think of as a complete cycle of making a thing. Um, I've used this approach to sort of just think through playfully of like, well, I've got an idea and I'm going to doodle. Or sometimes I doodle and I don't have an idea.
Yes. You use the doodle to find the idea sometimes.
Yeah. And that was like what you have on screen
Yeah, I
was from
wanted to talk
this.
about the
Yeah.
unblocking project a little bit, but yes, let's respond to this. Is this the one you to pull up?
Sure. Um so there was that one. I like I like to doodle abstract flame, and abstract flame looks a little bit like hair, and so there's this little character that came out of it. And then of course, that character doing a little bit of a martial arts esque pose at the edge of an ocean. you know this is all symbols in my head, and I'm like, okay, I want these symbols out, here you go. And then I took a snapshot with my phone, and at the time, Squarespace took away this feature, which I'm mildly annoyed about. But they essentially have well, you could just email something to your blog quick, and they took that
Oh,
away. Kind of bummed about that, but it is what it is. It's hard. You have a product in the world, and I'm probably the minority of people using this thing anyway. But that's a habit from the Posterous era. If anyone remembers Posterous or
I remember
Posterous,
Postgres. That was cool.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that was part of the process. I'm like, oh, quick, and ship a thing. Clearly, the medium with which you ship is part of the experience too. You want to make sure you pick something efficient as opposed to not if you're going to do a short cycle creative process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, this unblocking when I was doing some planning for the year, I did let's see, I had a short cycle, but I actually added a no cycle of like this is nearly nothing for me to produce as far as I don't feel a cost for it in my day kind of thing. And that's what I classified like a high percentage of unblocking posts. So overall, that project was in that range of such a low cost. I consider it no cost. But anyway, like if you want to be able to engage in that, why do it? It's for my personal practice and the comfort, but also like it sends a signal into the world of like these are the things that I notice and that I'm interested in, how I like to think through stuff. And yes, it's a lot of angles and different things, but this is what captures my attention, and others can react to it. So this approach to like sketching to think is, in a way, it's like visual blogging, and that was a huge part of that whole unblocking project. Which, yeah, every day for the year of 2015, I would put out put out a drawing, and Jersey paused on this. There's a phrase put out in circle. So okay, so Jeff Bezos, Amazon.
Uh,
All right, I don't bet you did not. I don't know. Did you expect Jeff Bezos to get mentioned right now?
no, I did not.
Okay, so I think he's the one who coined this idea of if you have a team that is larger than you could feed with 2 pizzas, that team was too big, right? And so this has become like a mantra. And overall, I don't disagree with it, right? But like people are funny when they quote stuff, and they're like, it becomes like a proper noun and chanted practically, right? Where they're like
Yeah.
two pizza team, and you hear this repeated, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. One day, decided to make a little doodle, and this helped me process something about my world. It was, yeah, cheese and meat together in 2 pizza team. There you go.
It's pretty great.
Thanks.
So yeah, so you're kind of advocating for even for doing something like a sketch to think thing to like keep even the delivery of the thing low cost. Um,
Yeah, it's low cost yet complete, and helps you with that sort of signal, and you're out there sharing what you're thinking. It can be a really helpful source for that because the cost is pretty low, as opposed to saying, well, I'm going to make a whole finished full color comic page today.
mhm.
Okay, cool. Like if that's the project that's bringing enough value to you to do that, awesome.
Um, you did the unblocking project for quite some time. I want to say it was well over a year that you were doing it every day, right?
It was a little over a year. Yeah.
All right. Can you name like one or two, maybe three, like benefits that you derived out of adhering to a practice like that, um, for so long?
Let's see. I think inherently familiarity with tools and techniques, and confidence through the familiarity, and then connections through the completion of the process, where just folks reacting, connecting with new people online and the different social networks that I participate in. And let's see. And then finally, there's a little bit of the resource mine of like, well, I've got these things out there, and I've I've reached back through them a couple of different times to make use. And what's funny is I forgot about that the cheese and meat sketch, because that's totally going in a slide deck soon.
I was getting excited because I thought you were going to say that's totally going into an 8-page mini comic.
And okay, maybe it'll be a mini comic too, because honestly, that almost writes itself.
There's too many of them. We need a 2-pizza team.
We need a 2-pizza team. This isn't a 1-pizza team.
when the crime underworld multiplies too rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
you got to call the 2-pizza team.
Well, the thing is, like the 5-pizza team, they can't handle it. There's too much bureaucracy in the 5-pizza team. 5-pizza
it's like
team
Parliament. It's just pizzas screaming at each other.
It's like they've got Robert's Rules of Order, and they can't second a thing. They never finish a motion, and all of a sudden, 2-pizza team, boom! They kick it all. They kick all the butts, and everything is accomplished.
They kick all the butts. Episode 1, 2-pizza team. We kick all the butts. I think. I mean, it's not just Silicon Valley guys, but I think every 9-year-old in the world would love this cartoon. 2-pizza team in kicking all the butts. Zachary Simonton is in the chat, and he's saying that he does this kind of thing just with Post-its and doodles what he likes. Yeah,
it's a great approach.
Post-its are the best, or sticky notes, whatever you want to call them, if you don't want to use like a brand name. Yeah, I've taken it, it's become part of my gear that I carry everywhere I go now, is the Post-its. For that reason, it's such. There's something about the format that makes everything feel utterly disposable and as the most opposite of precious as you could possibly make it, but it's also sticky. So if it's a good thing, I want to keep it. Get stuck in a notebook. Get stuck in a sketchbook.
Well, I mean, so do you use it also for recomposability?
Oh yeah. I mean, I do that with my writing all the time. I mean, actually, this is something I picked up from one of my former students, Lauren Hauser. I think it's Lazuli Art on Twitter. I want to give her proper credit. She thumbnails all of her comics on sticky notes, and then does that so that she can recombobulate scenes, right? Reflow and reformat everything. And so yeah, I use them to do like the initial draft of my comics, and then from that I go to my second thumbnails. But you use them for planning, and if people were following along on your Art Sound Off posts, use them to plan workshops.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, two workshops in November, and then yeah, it's a really very flexible approach. I've used it. I mean, we use them in this house a lot for family meetings, for processing big challenges and problems and whatnot. They're a very approachable medium.
Are you listening, 3M? Are you listening?
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
We'll take your money, and we will happily promote your products because we use them like crazy. This is my Thunder Punch Daily idea pad, right, for jotting down quick ideas. Okay, did we walk around this, Rob?
Well, yeah, I think we did. I do think so. Let's see. What is there? I'm curious from the storytelling angle. Is that enough? Is the warm up stuff enough for someone who it's for me, it's like if I'm working through design puzzles and working through collaborative things in a room or whatever, this is enough, right? But like I'm just wondering, it's almost like, could this I'm just wondering what kind of friction or challenges you would see with this, like if you're really trying to
friction or challenges. I'm thinking about like meetings that I encounter when I have to work with a bunch of multidiscipline people. People who are not necessarily visual thinkers, or maybe they're not abstract thinkers. Maybe they're very concrete thinkers and they need to see it. I think stopping to sketch could appear to steal the pace of the discussion because you're sort of turning it into a performance for a moment. I can see that as a
Mm-hmm.
potential friction point. And so that's where talking through your idea, like developing that skill a little bit, I imagine would be helpful. At least I'm thinking about the type of people that I work with, right? In the situations I've encountered where I'm dealing with very concrete thinkers and I have to sketch the idea out, often I find that I have to also talk through it to sort of keep the sense of momentum going, right?
That's a Yeah, that's a really fantastic example, because yeah, different people, different learning styles. It's really important to tune in to that, depending on how you're choosing to use this. And like if it's live in the room, that's pretty huge.
I remember at a Kids Read Comics stakeholder meeting years ago. This is a long time ago. So like these are people who aren't even involved in the organization anymore. When we were really like Dan Michigan and I were really trying to float this idea of, I think you were there for this year's show. We had an artist alley that was actually like in two different parts of town, and we constructed these sort of events that would happen between them to sort of like direct traffic to flow through it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we described it, we got a lot of head scratching, like what? And then we drew a map and we drew a flow, like we did like sort of like a slide deck that was like sort of like still stores of an animated sequence of people moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in that situation, it was like sort of like, oh, okay, we get it now. This visually makes sense when you spell it out that way. So yeah, again, it's like using visuals to reach people who may have difficulty wrapping their head around what could either be an abstract concept or an utterly unseen concept. We haven't seen anything like this before.
Yeah, and it sounds like if you give it enough context and being tuned in to see like, is this clicking? And if it's not, think about like, well, what might be needed from that particular group, and that's a really important thing to tune into if you're in the sort of live sharing of this sort of thing, and you're bringing up another cool
Oh,
situation.
I was just going to see if I could find on my portfolio website.
Yeah.
I've got like some examples of my storyboards, and I was going to actually like try to describe. It's like I was working on a storyboard for a television commercial. This is years ago.
Mhm.
It was for like one of those tire sealants where you squeeze it in your flat tire and it inflates the tire, but also coats it with some kind of epoxy that seals the hole or whatever. And so like the
Mm.
script is like, yeah, a woman driving in a storm, she hears her tire go flat. Um, and then she's like looks at the tires like, what am I gonna do about this? And it's like, well, if she had slime tire sealant, she could fill it up with this machine. It'd be really easy. But instead, she's in the rain, frustratedly trying to get this tire off of the wheel, the hubcap or whatever. Like get the bolts off of the thing. And
Mm.
so then like there's a difference between me saying that and then actually showing it, right? So like there's the board, you get to show her super frustrated in that middle panel versus juxtaposed by look at how comfortable she is when she has it delivered to her door, right? So
Mm. Yeah, it that
this
is
is
cool. Picking
this is
multiple
different because it's a
moments and
storyboard, but it's using the same ideas, right?
and let's see. So if you are drawing this out, it doesn't. I mean, so a storyboard is a very crisp example of how you could have multiple moments, multiple perspectives, and different things that are emphasized. And but you can make a collage out of this stuff too. And even though, like, if you're getting ideas out and responding to, um, responding to collaborators and whatnot, it may not look as clean as a storyboard, but like you're still getting those things out there visually and making it so it's I mean in that situation it's so everyone is able to contribute in some way and relate.
Mm-hmm. And I would also argue that if you're serious about making comics, just doing this would be a way to sort of work out. It'd be like an exercise to give you more perspective and resources when coming up with shots and moments that need to feel a certain way. Right.
Hmm.
So,
And to pick on the recent example from Sketch to Think, um, that one was about essentially you draw three character poses and then do them in such a way where you can reuse the pose, whether you just draw it over again, and then draw them in 3 different situations of like use the same exact pose and show someone being, happy, show someone being something else, and then show someone being down, right?
Mm.
Where now you can see like that much like how eyebrow versus, so your ocular muscles and all that kind of stuff, you can convey so many different things with as far as eyes, but then you compare it to like the eyes plus the mouth, that's a bigger palette of emotions you can convey. Same thing if even if you're just doing like stick figure characters, if you give them a face and give that face some emotion, all of a sudden you've got a broad set of things to, like, it's a broad vocabulary. So here you go. Okay, Jersey is taking the challenge right now.
This is one of the ones that I do with my students where I'm like, okay,
Yep.
what is this emotion? And they'll say like, oh, ashamed,
Mm.
sad, defeated. And I'll say, what about this? And they'll say drunk, sleepy, right?
That's great. So yeah, a little bit of a droopy eye, but a happy face, happy mouth.
Right. And then
Yeah.
yeah, then the other one that we do is this where I do the arms akimbo, spine up. And this is just to explore like, spine up is powerful, spine down is less powerful. I go, what is this? Oh, it's
Mm.
proud, it's defiant. Okay, what is it now? And they'll say, oh, it's accusing, right?
Mm.
Totally changes it. So yeah, yeah. So
100%. Same posture, different emotions. It makes a difference, and it gives you a wide vocabulary. So there you go.
all right. Well, I think we walked around it, Rob.
Yeah, I
For
think so.
now we did.
Right. Until next time.
Until until the next time when we talk
Until we
about it
choose
again.
to go in this woods again for some reason. Those glowing eyes. I don't know. Just makes me curious.
All right, so I do want to take this opportunity before we close out to mention everybody that this month, as we record the show, is Art Sound Off Month, where Rob and I do Journal Microcast every day for the month of November, which you can listen to on our Patreon page at patreon.com/LeanIntoArt. There's Rob's latest one right now.
Posted minutes before the show.
And then here's mine that I did earlier this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we're not the only ones doing it. A whole bunch of people all over the world are participating in Art Sound Off. And the way to follow along with that is to go to twitter.com and search for the Art Sound Off hashtag. You can hear from all sorts of artists. And there's still time to participate. I mean, November's not over yet. So if you want to, chip in a few, you go to artsoundoff.com, and that's where you can find all the prompts. So you can get some ideas, and also how to do it, right?
Exactly, because maybe you're new to posting audio, and this is there's a lot of great easy ways to do this, and including if you're like, well, okay, fine, I know how to post audio, but what do I say? That's what the prompts are for. Just you can self interview, react to it as if you're asking yourself the question, and see where it goes. And then you can say, well, why would I do that? Because and it's not just, well, because we think it's cool. It's because the that practice, I mean, just like this whole sketch to think thing, you're engaging with your process in a different way. Much like if you're describing like, what do you do for a living to someone you haven't met and who's not familiar with that kind of thing, you just get new inroads as far as how do you find a relatable way to convey stuff. And you're doing that with things that you may not be unpacking on a regular basis. So there you go.
Yeah. Way to check in and reflect. A purposeful pause. I keep wanting to borrow Kate's expression that she came up with in a couple episodes ago in the Lead and Tart Cast. I thought it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. A purposeful pause.
Yeah, it's a cool concept.
All right. Well, this show will records every 2 weeks. Usually on Thursdays. We recorded on Tuesday this time because we happen to have a big holiday in the United States on Thursday. But we'll be back 2 Thursdays from now. If you miss us again, Start Sound Off, you could always check in on that, or you could follow along with our Extra Lean show, the show we record in between the big shows, and that's also on our Patreon page. And there's going to be other social media call outs in the closing music and everything. But thank you, Rob, for this awesome discussion and for the fun drawing exercises.
Jersey, my pleasure. This is a lot of fun. Thank you very much for exploring this whole thing with me. It was awesome.
And we'll be back next time. Until then, I've been Jersey Drozd of leanintoart.com and Jersey on Twitter.
And I've been Rob Stenzinger of leanintoart.com and Rob Stenzinger on Twitter.
Okay, bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at leanintoart.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the user leanintoart, and you can reach us via email at leanintoart@gmail.com. And remember, leaners aren't wieners. Thanks for listening.
Okay, I'm going to kill the stream, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you.